Frankie, let's begin with the latest regarding Graham Potter, his future, and what the board intend to do. So right now, he's obviously not sacked, and by the sounds of it, they've got no intention of sacking him for another couple of weeks, really. It sounds like they're going to give him the Everton and Arsenal game and just write them off and say whatever happens, happens, and then we'll replace him with someone. And the someone, whilst the names are no one new, it's still Nuno, Bilic, O'Neill, Dyche. It's changed to interim manager. They're looking to bring someone in with a contract until the end of the season. And when they were writing off these two fixtures, which we can discuss, because I'm still not happy about it, bringing in a manager, right now, there's still 33 games left, right? It's not 10 or 15. 33 games are still remaining. But if I put that to one side, they're just going to bring in a manager with a contract until the end of the season. I feel like not only are they writing off the Everton and Arsenal game, I feel like they're almost giving a manager a contract and saying, probably get relegated, so you can have a job until the end of the season. You keep us up, we'll give you a new one. And if we go down, then do one and we'll get someone else in. Nothing they're doing is making me happy. Now, I'm not even talking about the last 15 years of David Sullivan, David Gold, Karren Brady. I'm talking about the last 2 days of David Sullivan and Karren Brady. Almost every decision that they're apparently making, I'm disagreeing with here. I think they know they need to sack Potter because they're not denying that. It's not even like, oh, they believe Potter's going to. There's none of that. There's not even a hint that I think Potter's going to turn it around. Quite the opposite. They know they need to sack him. They just don't know how, when, or who. What an absolute shambles. Anyway, Frankie, welcome to the podcast. How are you? And what's your take on everything?
Yeah, very well. You've really cheered me up on this Monday morning, Gio. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, what a time to be a West Ham fan. It's just typical West Ham scenarios. I'm not surprised. I mean, they've been bad and made some very odd decisions in the past, but it seems to be like a new low for West Ham, to be perfectly honest. And from what you just said there, one surefire way that you're adding to the potential of getting yourself relegated, it's by bringing in someone that you don't have confidence in, that the players don't have confidence in. It's a surefire way of making sure that your best players try and leave you either in January or at the end of the season as well, because they don't know what's going on. They don't want to be in that situation as footballers. So I don't understand any of it. It's almost like it's self-destruct. I really thought that Potter would already be gone. I thought after that Palace game, I thought enough would have been enough. I think there was enough people protesting and enough of a noise to create them to panic and force them to make change. Yet they still feel absolutely content on just doing nothing at the moment. And every single game that goes by puts yourself more and more into trouble. And you know what it's like, Gio, once you get yourself in that mix, it's hard to get out of it. Yep. So, what we're doing to ourselves is complete self-destruct, really. And I can't really get my head around why they're playing at this game. But if there's one way that they'll create more unrest and more noise for the Brentford game, they're going the right way about it, Gio.
Well, I'm going to see if you're on the same wavelength as me in terms of what we believe is going on. Before I do that, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy the podcast, please do subscribe. It's completely free. It takes 2 seconds. And also do drop a like on the video as well by clicking that thumbs up button. We could get 1,000 likes on this podcast. That would be fantastic. But thank you very much for all the support recently. It's much appreciated. Frankie, do you agree when I say it feels like the board are writing off the next 2 fixtures, that they know they need to sack Potter? They just haven't done it yet. And they're willing to say, right, scrap Everton, scrap Arsenal. We'll get a new manager in over the international break and he'll be ready to go at that Brentford game.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. But anyone with half of a brain, if you're writing them off, if you're prepared to write them off, then why would you wait for the international break? Surely you're better off giving yourself a chance of something. So rather than just sitting and doing nothing, which pretty much guarantees that you don't get anything from those games and you have to write them off and there's no chance of us getting any points from them, anyone at the moment would give yourself a better chance of winning those games. So why you wouldn't just act now and then put someone in who's, whether it be Noble, whether it be whatever, there must
Robson.
be. Yeah, absolutely.
I think he'd be my choice. I think I'd
Yeah,
give Robson for a couple of games.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, especially the fact that he's had a bit more managerial experience than Noble. I think that, and whether you have Mark Noble alongside him, I don't know.
I would,
yeah.
I'd
So,
do that.
but what we're saying is there is a better option to potentially give yourself a chance of getting something from those games. So, still, if we are just writing games off, don't understand why we have to wait until the international break.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree with that. And I think what it also does, it puts the West Ham job vacancy up in lights around the world. Because right now, Potter's under pressure, everyone knows it. But if you're a manager in work, never mind out of work, you probably get on the phone to your agent and say, hey, find out that West Ham gig's going. I fancy a bit of that. But if you're currently in a job, let's just say you're managing, I don't even know who's top of the Danish league, the Norwegian league, but let's just take those, the managers that are in charge of the club at the top of that league right now. If the West Ham job became vacant, maybe they think, you know what, this could be my chance. I want to manage in the Premier League. I like West Ham, big club, good players. I can do something there. And if that vacancy becomes open, you might find more managers getting in touch. And I would like to put my name in the hat, please, because at the minute, all we do is go from manager to manager. We never have a period where actually it is a position that's available. And actually, I think given yourself that week or two where you don't actually hire anyone, you just interview, you sound out candidates, you do your research, you might find that there's a name that you've never heard of. I mean, you don't know, but maybe the football geeks listening to this will be thinking of a few names that's got, hang on, this guy's in Belgium, smashing it, football's fantastic, scoring 2.5 goals a game, right? But I think it might even allow the club an opportunity to just do a bit of research, do a bit of scouting for managers rather than just going to the same old names and seeing if there's someone out there. And like you said, put someone like Mark Robson in charge, because at the minute, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty certain that him, Potts, Noble, Keating did get the players at least fired up for it. They'd go to I keep saying Goodson Park, they'll go to Ballymore Docks, they'll go to the Emirates, sleeves rolled up with a bit of belief, and they'll go out there and fight for the badge at worst, and you might get something. But here's the thing, Frankie, they've already written off, supposedly the board have written off the next 2 fixtures. The last 2 games away to Everton and the last 2 games away to Arsenal, so 4 fixtures. Do you know how many points we've got?
Go on.
10 of 12. We've won 3 and drawn 1. So these 2 fixtures that they're saying we can't win, we're not going to win, we're going to lose anyway. Well, last season, the season before that, we've picked up 10 points from 12. And the game against Everton last season had the late equaliser as well. So we were 5 minutes away from 12 points out of 12. These are the games that this board are writing off. We picked up wins in these fixtures. And the board are saying, no, we can't win them, so we'll just let Potter have it. Well, like you said, that doesn't make sense. Give it to someone internally. I'm sure if you said to any of those names that we've mentioned, can you take the team for a couple of weeks? I'd be shocked if you said, no, thank you. They're going to go, yeah, I'll absolutely do that. Plus, it's their job anyway. You get promoted and you cover for the time being. It makes no sense. Maybe it's maybe they're negotiating with Graham Potter as we speak, because obviously he's got, in theory, he's got this season, next season on his contract, but there's a belief there's a break clause at the end of this season. Maybe they're trying to get him to accept the compensation for the remainder of this season only and write off next year. Perhaps they're negotiating that at this point and trying to get him out the door in that regards. But I think if they were doing that, I think it would have got leaked. Everything else has got leaked, so why would that piece of information not make it out into the public domain? So I find it hard to believe. And also the cynic in me, Frankie. First game back after the international break, home to Brentford when there's a boycott. The cynic in me thinks you're targeting this fixture to try and maybe get people go, do you know what? New manager's first game, I'm going to go to that game now and show my support for the new gaffer in the dugout and stuff like that. I just wouldn't put anything past them except bad decisions. And it's just, the worst thing is it feels so obvious. Like, so obvious. It's not even like a difficult decision to make. It's an easy decision, and they're still getting it wrong. And I just don't understand. Well, I know, like you said, it's no surprise. I just don't understand why they haven't pulled the trigger yet. They're expecting West Ham fans to travel up to Liverpool on a Monday night next week to go support the team. And at the same time, they're saying, what's the point? We're going to lose. Just mind-blowing. Completely mind-blowing. Anyway, is there anyone in particular you'd like to see? I know you sort of spoke about a couple of managers last week. Is your needle on anyone at the minute?
No, it's not. And it's certainly not anyone we've been linked with still. I feel like there's got to be something a little bit more creative out there. I know there's this opinion that when everyone goes, well, who's out there? I mean, other clubs seem to go and find these managers that are not really on anyone's radar, but they bring them to the Premier League and they just hit the ground running. So I just don't buy into that. I think there's plenty of managers out there. I think I agree with you that we are not necessarily as much of an attractive prospect as we would have been when we got rid of David Moyes. I can accept that. But I also don't accept that no one would want this job.
Yeah,
and I think anyone would look at it as a massive opportunity for them and their managerial career. The only thing that makes me nervous, Gio, is that the managers that are worth their salt and have been in and around the Premier League, and this is why I think you've got to go and find someone a little bit different and a little bit outside the box, is because while I think our transfer negotiating ridiculousness has got around, which makes it harder for us to sign players now with certain agents or certain clubs, I think the way that we've been with managers and sort of just the way the board act, I think that word would have got around as well. So I think anyone who talks to other Premier League managers who have managed us before would sort of say why, and we know we had someone in the camp potentially putting players off coming to us. Well, managers talk as well, and it just makes me a little bit nervous that someone like why would Nuno, after he's just had what he's had with the owners at Forest, why would he want to come and work with David Sullivan? Like, he would know the situation. He would have seen the protests being reported on the news. Don't get me wrong, he might have enough of an ego, and he comes across like the sort of character who would go, do you know what? Agree. I don't care. I'll go in there and I'll show you all that I can make you a great
and then I'm going to kick off and you're going to pay me to leave.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's what he's done. But he did it at Wolves, he did it at Forest. I believe he did it when he was over in, I don't know if it was Saudi or Qatar. It's one of the two. I believe. I haven't looked, but I've seen enough people say he did it over there as well. He started speaking out again about the club and put himself in a position where they had to sack him.
And Brady's the sort of woman who would sing from the trees that is why he can't be West Ham's manager. She would know that, and she would be turning around and saying, there's no way this man can come and manage West Ham. She would know it. So that's why I just don't think it'll be him. Yeah, I don't think we've been linked with a manager that will end up being the West Ham manager yet. I think it will be a name that we haven't heard yet, but I guess time will tell.
I think it's still possibly going to be Slav. And the reason I think that is because I think, and this is obviously believing what's been reported, I believe they've met Nuno. I don't think it's a coincidence that Nuno was pictured at a restaurant in the village where Sullivan's gaff is, right? He was there to meet David Sullivan. You will not convince me otherwise. So if that meeting went well, could they have done a deal over the weekend and he's in by today? I think they could have done. Maybe they are negotiating with Potter's team to get him out, and they're negotiating with Nuno's team to get him in. Maybe that's what's happening right now behind the scenes. They're just trying to get it because Nuno, Potter's got his staff, and then Nuno's got his staff. So it's not just you're sacking one and hiring one. You're sacking 4 or 5 and hiring 4 or 5, aren't you? It's a big financial thing, and I imagine in terms of admin, I'd imagine it's a lot of work as well for the legal side of stuff. So maybe that process is ongoing. But when I seen the report today that West Ham would look towards getting a manager in on a short-term contract, well, that's going to put some managers off, isn't it? Like, would Nuno accept that? Would you? I think, why would Nuno come to West Ham? I think money, right? Money. You'd come in and go, yeah, I'll have my 3 million a year or whatever, and if I do well, great, I'll earn more millions, and if I do badly, you'll pay me millions to leave. And I also think it's a no-lose situation for the next guy in after Graham Potter. We stay up. You've done a good job. we go down, it's not your fault. I think that's what the new manager's coming into. I think Potter came in when we were 14th in the league. I think he could have ballsed that up and got us relegated, and he would have looked really bad. So I think he could have done harm to his reputation. I think he has, but I think whoever replaces Graham Potter, we're 19th in the table. We've lost 5 out of 6. 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 we've lost. Like, if we went down, the next manager in, while he would have some criticism and it would partly be his fault, there's still 33 games to go. There's a long time left. But I don't think he'd be the biggest culprit. It would be the board. But actually, I think the second culprit would possibly be Graham Potter. So it was his fault, right, before mine. So I actually think it's a no-lose situation. But you're asking a manager like Nuno to say, come in and sign a short-term contract. He's probably going to go, no, I'm not signing that. You want me, you put 3 years on the table. And if we get relegated, you pay me my millions to leave. Or I'll stick around in the championship and kick off until you do pay me to leave. One of the two. Maybe that. So when Nuno's they've not sacked him, I thought maybe this negotiating with Nuno has gone wrong. And I naively, as I said yesterday, just assumed that the meeting would have went well. But actually, there's a possibility that we've got, Nuno, yeah, we'll have him. And Nuno's turned around and gone, I don't want West Ham. I met Sullivan. Don't like it. Don't like what he's got to say. Don't like the offer on the table. I'm off. Thank you very much. I'll wait for the next Premier League job, because there will be another Premier League job that comes up at some point this season. We just don't know where yet. It might be Wolves, might be Leeds, might be Brentford. We don't know. But he will get a good job at this point. Anything else you'd like to talk about in regards to the managerial situation?
The only thing I'd say why I'm just still a real skeptic with regards to Bilic is that I agree with what you said. And I think the board also know that. And they love someone to blame. I think if you bring in Bilic, not at any point do the fans turn on Bilic. I think everyone would say he come into a bit of a nightmare situation after Lopetegui, after Potter, and it was a tough whatever.
Yeah.
So then the finger's pointed at them.
Yeah.
And they love someone to blame. They love a scapegoat. And that's just why I'm not sure Bilic will be the man for them. I get what you're saying in terms of common sense. You'd think a short-term manager, him for a short term. I get it, completely understand it. I just think they'll think.
I think you're right. I don't think people would blame Slav. And I think people would say, and the thing with Slav is, he's going to come in and give 100% and do his best. You know that. You know he loves West Ham. Whereas you look at Potter now, and when I hear him speak, and he goes, me and my team love West Ham. I'm like, no, you don't. And that's okay. Like, I'm not expecting you to love West Ham. There's no connection between Graham Potter and West Ham until January. So the fact that you don't love the club, I'm not offended by that. I just expect you to do your best and be a competent manager. That's all. And if you happen to fall in love with West Ham along the way, brilliant. That's what we like to happen. I believe that Souček, Soufal, James Collins, Carlton Cole, I believe they fell in love with West Ham whilst at the club. But I don't think they rocked up and after one day went, you know what? I love West Ham. This is brilliant. It's a long process. You need so when Potter sat there going, we love West Ham. You don't. And that's okay. I don't expect you to. You possibly have a soft spot for Brighton, but I bet you hate Chelsea. I bet you've got a soft spot for Swansea, but you probably don't love West Ham. But I tell you what, Bilic already loves West Ham. So if he sat there and joined us, I love being back at this club. I believe him, because I bet he would be. And I think he'd take a short-term contract. I think he would take a minimum wage contract as a manager. I bet he'd be you could offer him the lowest paid manager's contract in the Premier League. He might even take it, because he loves the club and he's out of work. so he might take it. But I have no doubt that if he came in, he'd give everything. And if we failed, would kind of be on the manager. But like you said, everyone would point at them and say it was your fault. And I don't necessarily disagree. Right. A development that happened yesterday, Frankie, which I sent you.
You did.
Mrs. Sullivan. She's I say be chatting. She's been typing. She's taken to social media. So for those unaware, she posted on Instagram in regards. Someone said to her, "Tell David to leave West Ham. We are ruined." And she replied, "He works his arse off and gives a shit about the club. Spent a fortune on players and managers. There's no exact science to guarantee results. When David Sullivan and David Gold left Birmingham, the fans were thrilled. Within 18 months, the new Chinese owners ruined the club. Be careful of what you wish for. He gives a fuck. She blanked out UC, but she didn't blank out the I for shit. So she'll only hide some swear words. He gives a fuck. Until you have walked in someone else's shoes, no one can offer a true comprehension of all sides and dynamics. He's just as devastated as you, believe me. And the person replied saying, moved us from our home. What for? Going to the next level, the fans were told the club are embarrassing, wasting money on awful players and managers. Mrs. Sullivan replied again, I see your point of view. Watch this space as things will change. Don't lose faith. And she also took to Twitter, West Ham Central. She put up a tweet, and West Ham Central just told her that everyone hates her boyfriend. And she replied, once you've been in football as an owner for 3 decades, invested your security on staying up through relegation, please come and share your thoughts, as they would be valued and significant. To be nasty and personal, including your negative attitude towards myself based on tabloids nonsense, do me a favour. Live a life in someone's shoes and comment, hiding behind West Ham's club doesn't wash for me. Who the fuck are you? Anyway, what did you make of her?
Well, Gio, I will always judge someone at face value. And just because she has been given a golden ticket to life by managing to catch David Sullivan's eye, doesn't mean that she's necessarily a bad person. I've been at Players Awards with her. While everyone else disappears from the board, she has stayed behind and mingled with everyone and danced the night away. She has always been quite happy to engage with people, talk to people, get on the dance floor, cut a bit of a rug with everyone and throw some shapes. So she's got a bit of character about her. She's got a bit of personality. She isn't one of these people she isn't a typical billionaire's missus who might be a little bit timid or be controlled. She's clearly got her own voice. And like I say, sometimes you'd see a billionaire's wife sitting next to them, leave with them, and almost be a little bit controlled. But she wasn't like that. She very much was her own person and had her own, she just did her own thing. So, seeing that, a little bit of respect on that side of things. And she was very, like I said, talking to plenty of West Ham fans at the Players Awards. But I don't agree with anything she said there. And that Sullivan cares because it's his investment. It's his, it's going to be a huge, what he's done with West Ham, let's be quite honest, is in terms of a business transaction, a bit of a masterstroke. He's going to profit hugely from West Ham, and it is going to go down. I've said it before, it's going to go down of one of the biggest profits from a football club that anyone who's bought a club and sold it on, it's going to be one of the biggest return on investments that there's been. So he's going to make a real pretty penny. And what a fantastic, but it didn't take a genius. We all knew we was a sleeping giant. We all knew the fan base we had, and we all knew it just needed someone to come in and kick us on. Look, he promised us European football. We won a European trophy, albeit I still think by a very unforeseen. It wasn't like we planned to win the Conference League, because when they took over, it didn't even exist. So it isn't like it's been, we're going to work towards that. Again, David Moyes, one loss away from having the worst record in West Ham's history as a manager. Potter's now decided he wants that title. So well done, Potter. But, something happened, COVID come along, we just dealt with it better than others, and for whatever reason something just clicked and we ended up in European football and going on and winning that trophy. So look, I wouldn't change it for the world, but I'm not so sure that the bit of fun that we had with Europe was ever really well thought out or well planned by the board. I think it was just a stroke of fortune.
Yeah, 100%. It was just luck on their part. It
was just pure luck. So, it's very difficult. The thing that I don't understand is if he did care, there's so many things he could do right now to make West Ham feel a bit better. And that's why I know he doesn't care. You know, he's all right sitting there and playing real life Football Manager and being so hands-on. If he really wanted and really cared about this club, he has to admit to himself that ultimately the football world has moved on. This isn't when he owned Birmingham City. She brings up Birmingham City. Football's so different to when he owned Birmingham City. It ain't even the same game anymore. It's completely different from a business perspective and from the actual game itself. So, you know, this isn't Birmingham. You can't bring that up. There's no comparison there.
And she misstated a bit the fact that they sold it to someone who ended up in jail for money laundering.
Exactly that.
That's how much you cared about Birmingham. You gave it to a criminal. You sold the club to a criminal.
She said, be careful what you wish for. Well, you gave that to them for that fan base. You was the one who engineered that and created that situation for them. It wasn't, they didn't pick the owner. You went and sold the business to an absolute crook. So, you know, that's the reality of it. Look, we all know he doesn't care. Look, there's loads of things, like I said, from a match day experience, from removing the wall that's there, from improving the pre-match experience in terms of whatever. I know it's tricky because we don't own that stadium, but again, that's your fault. You did that to us. At the end of the day, you can't, there's so many things that they could try and have an excuse with, but they created the position that we're in. So it's very, very difficult for them to even, for her to comment that and it hold up, because it just doesn't. And I know she's defending her you know, her boyfriend and everything else. And I understand that, but it's just nonsense. You've got to have a bit of, it's got to carry a little bit of weight. And look, giving it all just you wait and see. Well, hurry up, because at the moment you're not showing us any of that. So look, pull your finger out and start showing us that things will change, because at the moment you're dragging your heels again. You've said that it's just going to be dragged out. You've said not only are you going to drag the Potter situation out, but you're going to drag the whole manager situation out until the end of the season. Look, that stadium, Joe, was empty at the weekend, more than I've ever seen a West Ham stadium. There were empty seats everywhere. And I never felt like boycotting a game, one, is the right thing to do for the team, because we desperately need points and we need to start winning football matches. And two, I think it's very, very difficult to ask people to turn away. But the point has been proven. A football club cannot survive and cannot exist on tourists alone. It can't happen. The tourists are fair weather. As soon as the football drops off, as soon as there's no interest, as soon as the team's not doing very well, it is an absolute, you cannot fill that stadium with tourists every single week. And we've seen that now. And that will be a big realization for them, that actually people are turning away. And if there was that many empty seats without a boycott, wait until Brentford comes along and people are actually asked to stay away. It's going to be so embarrassing. And even the commentators on the game were turning around and saying, this feels weird. The atmosphere is weird. The amount of empty seats is very, very weird. The whole thing, and that reflects on them. And this, they hate being embarrassed, and they're already starting to feel it. So that's why I'm surprised. I don't think they're acting with more urgency, and why they feel like the approach that they've said they're going to go down is the right one, because this could get very, very heated for them very, very quickly. And it's not looking good on them right now at all.
Yeah, I think that London Stadium, HMV, reminds me of the London Stadium a little bit. I had to go in and pick up a record a couple of weeks ago, and I was the only one in the store. And it was like an online order, so you had to go fetch the parcel. And so I was there for about 5 minutes. I just started looking at all the vinyl and whatever, and I was still the only one in the store. And when I left, I was still the only one in the store. I thought, man, when I was a teenager, HMV was like hustling and bustling a little bit. And the London Stadium's a bit like that in terms of what you're saying. Eventually, people get fed up and people discover other ways of spending their Saturday. The tourists discover better alternatives for viewing Premier League football in London. There's plenty of options, especially now that Brentford have come up and stayed up. Fulham have come up and stayed up. There's actually cheaper grounds to go to watch your Premier League football. And the product's better from the home team as well as the away team. And atmosphere, arguably, is better at those stadiums. It definitely is at the G-Type. Even Fulham's probably generating a better atmosphere as well. And when you were talking about like how people get turned away by the product, it's just the weather. If it's cold and wet, they go, "Nah, I'm all right. I'm not going out in the cold and wet to go to the London Stadium," because you do get soaked from A to B, because there's like from the station to the ground, because it's a vast empty space. You are open to the elements and stuff. So
you get soaked in there, Gio. They're like, there's no. When you look up and you see the netting, like it ain't even a structure, is it? And that leaky part of the ground, it's like a wind tunnel all the way around there in the winter.
For those
Awful.
unaware, there's the outside bit. So the stadium's got like two halves. So the bottom bit where the turnstiles are, it's just like a white wall, if you like, and then on top it's like a mesh, and then there's a wall, but there's a gap between the top and the bottom, which is just mesh. So it's just wind, rain, everything comes. So you're on the concourse, you're outside, even though you're inside, you feels like you're outside. Yeah. So there's no like protection from the weather. It's a funny old stadium, the London Stadium. In regards to what Mrs. Sullivan had to say, I think that was an absolute PR disaster on her part. I think for two reasons. One, from the West Ham perspective, it shows that the protests are getting to them, the board, because I took it as a bit of a reaction to the protests from the West Ham fans, and I thought, wow, we're really getting to them here. And two, she's just really inflicted a load of some abuse, but some people just pointing out that she was running a care home which got shut down by Ofsted because it shouldn't have been open in the first place, and she didn't adhere to the regulations put in place in order to protect children. And Ofsted shut down the care home that she was running with David Sullivan's money, and obviously David Sullivan being, a criminal, and because of what he's been in trouble for previously, he's not allowed to be anywhere near the care home, and she was running it with his money. So she's really almost like created an onslaught for herself, really. And I think it was just a really silly move on her part. And I sort of get it to some extent if you remove the West Ham's aspect of it, which is that you're seeing your loved one under a lot of pressure and a lot of abuse. You are at some point going to hit out, but I think it does a lot more bad than good for David Sullivan, actually. And she's put a big target on herself, I think, doing those social media posts, the one on Twitter in particular. And I appreciate West Ham Central isn't everyone's cup of tea, but when she replied, "Who the fuck are you?" I think a lot of people didn't see it as she was replying to West Ham Central, and she was just replying to West Ham fans, as if to say to West Ham fans in general, "Who the fuck are you?" What, my other half's putting all these money into the club, and what are you doing? Silly move on her part. I don't think she's helped David Sullivan out there. I think she was trying to defend Sullivan, but I think she's actually made it worse than it was, which is somehow quite impressive because I didn't know it could be. But there we go.
I think as well, Gio, just on that, just to summarise, it's madness, right? That some people think that what we go through of history, of family, the sacrifices we give, the money that we spend as supporters, what we go through in terms of, like you said, going through the rain and traveling up north and traveling abroad, and we have to make so many sacrifices as fans, and I don't think there's any regard for that anymore. For any owner to suggest that they care as much as the fans is wild in general.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're mad to even comment that. And actually, you'd have a lot more respect if they turn around and said, "Look, we know that we could never care as much as you. Like, all of what you have to go through as a fan base, we know that, but we are doing our best." That is a totally different.
I 100% agree with that. It sort of goes hand in hand with Graham Potter saying, "Oh, we love this club." No, you don't, Graham, and that's okay. But the minute you start saying that or suggesting that you care as much as everyone else, I know not everyone will get this. Well, actually, if you're listening to this podcast, you will. They have a choice to be involved with West Ham United. We don't.
Yeah.
Like, you get brought up as a West Ham fan, and that's it. That's your football club. It's done. You can't get out of it. Like, it's done. Once you're West Ham, you're West Ham. That's that. And despite how crap everything is, when you have a kid, you give it to them as well as you support West Ham. Please, Dad. No, you're doing it. This is the family team. You support West Ham. We don't have a choice. Like, only football fans will get this, and it's not just West Ham, it's football fans. If you could make an Everton fan listen to this, or an Ipswich Town fan, or a Stevenage fan, doesn't matter. It relates to them as well. They didn't choose to support Stevenage or whatever, or Ipswich. Some do, but once the top generation of the family picks that club, that's it. It's passed down through the generations. Then we didn't choose to support West Ham. We do it because we love the club, but also because we kind of have to. It's just a thing. You're a West Ham fan, and that's it. They chose to invest in West Ham. And, David Gold was a West Ham fan. I've got no doubt about that. But I don't believe Sullivan was a West Ham fan. Karren Brady's never even pretended she was a West Ham fan. Kutinski, Tripp Smith, any of them, they're not West Ham fans. And like you said, to say we love the club as much as you, or we care as much as you, no, you don't. But also, that's okay. You care about your investment. And that's okay. You're allowed to do that, because Kutinski's never ever said, I love West Ham. Come on, you Irons. No, we know it's an investment from Daniel Kutinski. He's looking to make money. We know it's an investment from Tripp Smith. He's looking to make money out of the football club. We get it. We're not stupid. Well, we are a little bit, but we're able to understand a businessman putting his money into the football club ain't because he loves the football club. It's because he's looking to make money out of the football club. We get it. So just don't pretend otherwise. Don't go, oh, we're doing this for charity. All right, if that's the case, then sell the club to a rich person for 20 million. Then, if you care about the club, give it away. And I say give it away. Take 20 million. Take a massive amount of money that's well below market value, so that the club can end up in the hands of someone that's better than you, richer than you, more powerful than you, someone that can really grow the club. If you care about the club, go on then, prove it. And that is by putting your money where your mouth is. And I don't mean into the club. I mean, you're not even doing that. You can invest another 90 million. You can put 90 million in if you want and spend it. You're not even doing that. But sell it to someone that can take the club forward, even if you just took back the money that you paid for the club. I can't remember exactly how much you paid, about 100 million between them, but they've already had over 20 million out of the club in interest. So let's deduct that from the 100 million first. So whatever net is left over, wipe your face, get your money back, and off you go. Then I might think, you know what? Maybe he did believe about the club, but you won't, because you want to make as much money as you can. And whilst I say it's okay, but my point is, don't pretend otherwise. We care as much as you don't, because if you did, you'd be doing your utmost to get someone in to buy it off you that can take the club forward. I would argue that to some extent, maybe that's what the Golds are doing. Maybe it's because they just don't want to run the football club. It was their dad's thing, and it's like, right, okay, we don't want to run West Ham United. We don't have any part of this. Or maybe it is because they think, let's just give it to someone that's better than us, and they can get involved with the football club. But care as much as us, you don't. But it's also okay. Just, it's the pretending that infuriates me. It's the lying that infuriates. And that's the worst thing out of all this. When people have their complaints about this club, 90% of it is about being misled. It's about the promises that wasn't delivered. It's about being lied to. It's not actually about we're crap. We were that anyway at times, right? We're used to that. It's the removing the history. It's the lying about the stadium. It's about misleading at best. And you still continue to do it. That's the complaints. And this is just another one. We care as much as you. You don't. You don't. You've had ample opportunity to prove it. And very rarely do you prove it. You do. You try to take concessions away from us. You try to price out kids and seniors to go into West Ham United. We care about as much as you. No, you don't. You literally tried to fleece us. Just do one. Honestly, stop people. This is what the protesting's about. Enough's enough. They're sick of it. And it's just another thing that says we care as much as you. Anyway, anything you'd like to add before we leave it, Frankie?
No, nothing at all. It's the only thing I would say on it, Gio, just to end on a slightly positive note, is that for anyone who said West Ham died, and for anyone who said, when we left that stadium, there is a glimmer. We are still clinging on. We're there, and I think the protests showed that we are still. We may be on the old life support machine, but West Ham fans are still there. The old West Ham is still surviving just about, and I still have hope. How that comes about and how it comes, but I cling on to that fact that Newcastle were in a worse place than where we are, and look at where they are now. So it can happen. It needs something big to happen. I just keep hoping that it does. So yeah, I am clinging on to West Ham, Gio. I think somehow the old West Ham could arise again.